Hi everyone and welcome to Linger Longer with Books. My name's Catherine and in this week's video I'm going to be going through an A to Z of recommendations for fiction. That probably sounds really easy, doesn't it, to get 26 titles of every letter of the alphabet, but I did set myself some rules that I was really strict to keeping. So one of them was no titles starting with A or the, no kind of multiples of a certain book series, and no repeats from the same author. And one thing that I did realise when I was sort of looking through my shelves behind me and the ones upstairs here in my home is that I had quite a few books beginning with Q and a couple of other letters that I thought, oh no, I'm really going to struggle for that letter. But without further ado, I'm going to run you through the bookish alphabet in bunches of 4 or 5. So let's see what I recommend. Sorry, one last thing from me is that I am going to, given that I'm going through 26 letters, I'm going to give myself between 10 and 30 seconds to kind of outline each one for you, so it kind of keeps this video short and snappy. For A, I have Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a tale of courage against kind of all odds. It's about female careers against all odds. It really is about female astronauts of 1980s America kind of trying to carve out their careers, trying to be on an even playing field in terms of public perception, skill sets, access to NASA really, and it is a really powerful love tale of 2 women who are kind of struggling with working out their emotions for one another and their feelings and kind of how it all happens, and ultimately the fragility of life, love and everything, our time on earth. Really. I'm going to go straight on to B. B is Book Love by Debbie Tung. This is a really cute published, not graphic novel, I guess it is essentially. It's in picture form and it has text as well. It's just a real look at how we all relate to books and the art of reading, and it is really, really enjoyable. For C, I have Cecily by Annie Garthwaite. This is a historical tale set in 15th century England predominantly. It really makes you stop and think about the role of women, their, I guess, their power, what they have, what they don't have in terms of that power, the perception of that power, with that hierarchy of this particular world of the royal court of kings and queens, how much they can support the men at the very top and how much they can manipulate and kind of hinder men if they are not loyal and by their side just as an equal parts as men can. D is Dear Mrs. Bird. This is by AJ Pearce. This is the first book in a World War II based series. It's a real kind of at times joyful look at female friendship. It's makes for sort of tough reading at times. This is wartime London. This is women kind of picking up jobs, doing their bit as the country did at that time. But kind of what prevails out of that. There are many more books to this series I do recommend. And then for E in this section is Enduring Love by Ian McEwan. This is my very, very old A-level copy, which is a good 20 years old by this point. See all my sticky notes and all my annotations. So Enduring Love is a look at, first off, human reaction to a devastating situation, in terms of a hot air balloon accident, and kind of makes you think, what would you do in that same predicament? It's also a look at really sort of psychological issues and disturbances around a real kind of known and accepted syndrome, and just how someone's world can cave in very, very quickly, in sort of as an individual and as part of a couple. So highly recommend. So those are my first 5, A to E. Another rule that I've just remembered that I didn't say at the beginning is all of these books are books that I have fully read and I have a sharp enough memory or recollection of, because obviously a lot of these books are not books that I have read very recently. So yeah, just bearing that in mind as well as a rule if you so wish to copy this challenge. Anyway, let's go on to the next bundle of books. So for F, I have 50/50 by Steve Kavanagh. We head to New York City for this novel, and Steve's recurring kind of main protagonist, conman turned lawyer Eddie Flynn, makes an appearance and features all the way through this one. We basically have this simple but brilliant conundrum of 2 sisters, Sophia and Alexandra. They are both alleging that the other one killed their dad, but obviously one of them is telling the truth and one of them is lying, and kind of it sets out that whole gauntlet of how the hell do you unravel the lies to get to the truth. So that's brilliant. G, I've picked Graceland by Bethan Roberts. Sorry, cough unexpected. This is a really interesting fictional look at the very, very young years of Elvis Presley, the incredibly famous singer of the 20th century. He grew up in, I'm trying to think, I think it's Tennessee. I think essentially in the South states of America. And anyway, because we know so much about his sort of singing and acting career and his marriage and his ultimate demise, I really enjoyed looking behind the lens and seeing what he was like. He was obviously very traumatized by the death of his mother Gladys when he was a young man, and it kind of looks at that as well. So that is one I would recommend picking up. H, I picked Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. First off, I love Maggie's writing. I think she's one of the best authors out there of our current time. I just think she's incredibly skilled. Hamnet takes us to 16th century England. We have 3 young children, 2 of them brother and sister twin. We have Judith and Hamnet. This really looks at the devastation of when Hamnet dies, just aged 11 in 1596, and kind of how that can absolutely kind of tear through an entire household, a family, and the parents as well. And what I love about this one, Maggie takes you right into the rooms, to the hearths, on the flagstones. You really feel like you are on the character's shoulders in this one. And in a similar vein, but different setting, I have picked In Memoriam by Alice Wynne for I. This was one of my favourite reads of last year, I believe. I think it was last year. It's all a bit of a blur. But this is set in the First World War. We have 2 men, 2 very young boys, I should say, sorry. They're at school, and there is this whole kind of world that is bubbling away with war that's broken out. Too young to sign up, that whole kind of conundrum of conscription. And anyway, they both end up on the battlefields, in the trenches. And it's just a devastatingly powerful look at loss in a physical way, a psychological way, coming to terms with different feelings and emotions. Some men, some of the young boys, the very young men, return, some don't. Essentially, they're all on this, whatever kind of nationality they are all fighting to survive. So not an easy read, but I think it is one well worth picking up. So there, how many there? That is F through to I. For J, I unsuccessfully I'm empty-handed. Please let me know if you know of a title beginning with J out there. I do have some on my bookshelf, for example. Don't know if you can see it. I do have Just Another Missing Person by Julie McAllister, but I haven't yet read it, so I'm not cheating. Like I said, I will read it at some point, but that's just one example of a J. But if you have loved a book beginning with the letter J, let me know in the comments below. I would love to know, and I must get a few more of them just to back up this one there as well. Let's carry on through the alphabet. For K, I have Catherine of Aragon, the 6 Tudor Queens series by Alison Weir. I'm a huge fan of the Tudors and historical fiction, as you may have gathered by this point if you've been following my channel for a little while. I have the whole series by Alison. I'm reading my way through them one by one in the correct kind of chronological order. But I loved this kind of look at Catherine's life. She was the longest kind of wife of Henry VIII. She came up against all sorts of hardships. She desperately tried to give him a son, suffered many miscarriages. And you really kind of understand through this book about the complexities of what it was like as a queen. It wasn't all it was cracked up to be. There was a lot of risk that the queens, Catherine, carried with her. And ultimately, Henry wanted to divorce her, but she dug her heels in. She comes across as a very sort of passionate, obstinate, kind of strong-willed woman, and really enjoyed this one. Each of them are fairly kind of fairly long, fairly detailed, which I think does it justice. But anyway, that's K. For L, I have picked Long Island by Colm Tóibín. This is the sequel to Brooklyn that I have on my shelves up above me. This is a really, first off, I love the writing style of this book. It is a really like slow, contemplative, observational style that you get with the characters. That is many years later after they've set sail for New York. Ailish is kind of coming to terms with how her life is, how her life was, and kind of reconciling that in her head when she returns to her old village, essentially, and her relationship with her mother, about how strained that's been over the years. What is she wanting from life? She finds out a devastating secret about her husband, who you would never expect in Brooklyn for them to have any issues in the sort of naive and innocent world that we find her in initially. But anyway, loved this one. So yeah, I would say pick a copy up if you see one, bookshop, library, secondhand shop, pick this one up. Okay, next we are on to M, and I have picked Miss Benson's Beetle by Rachel Joyce. I read this as part of a book club that I went to. This is a really lovely, charming kind of tale of two women who strike up a really unexpected friendship. Very kind of chalk and cheese. It has a sense of adventure about it because it is 1950. Women are sort of traveling across the world, and it's unlike any other book that I've read before, and I would recommend to anyone to pick it up and challenge them not to enjoy it. So yeah, absolutely thrilled that I picked this amazing hardback copy up for just £2 from Rowan's Hospice here in England, and it actually happens to be a signed edition, so absolute winner there. I again failed at the letter N, which is surprising. I thought I would have loads of books beginning with that letter. Turns out I don't. I've looked on my Goodreads, I've looked on my physical shelves, really struggling. So again, if you're watching this, let me know in the comments below books that you have enjoyed beginning with the letter N, because I'm coming up a blank at the moment, which is a bit embarrassing, but it's a supportive space, isn't it? We're all bookish people together here. So I shall move swiftly on to the letter O, and I have picked One by Sarah Crossan. I read this earlier this year, so I have reviewed it on my channels before now. But I am a growing fan of Sarah's writing. She writes in short form. So the pace of her stories, you kind of lap them up as you turn the page. It has a real kind of steady pace and momentum behind it. But One is the tale of conjoined twins, and it really looks at their life through their own individual eyes and their parents' eyes, and they're facing a huge sort of dilemma of whether contemplating the need to become separate, and kind of what the repercussions of that might be psychologically, physically. Obviously huge life-changing operation, how they form friendships. Yeah, they've kind of got different outlooks on life, and it has a twist that you probably don't see coming. But anyway, really, really loved this one, although it's a really, really hard subject matter. Yeah, again, absolutely, if you see this one, snap it up, you won't regret it. For the next bunch of books, we are starting with the letter P, and that is, I picked Perfume by Patrick Susskind. Hopefully you can see that without the shimmer. This was originally published back in 1985, so I think it's celebrating its 40th year of publication this year. This takes us to 18th century France. We have our main character, Jean-Baptiste, and he has an incredible ability to smell. His sense of smell is massively heightened, unlike anyone else. But he has that ability, but sadly at the same time, he murders women. So this book is not for the queasy stomached or faint hearted, I would say. It's incredibly kind of richly written. It's obviously very sensory read. It goes through all sorts of kind of circumstances and settings. And I think there's one just on the sentence phrase that caught, I thought I would share with you just on the first bit. It says, "The street stanks of manure, the courtyards of urine, the stairwell stank of mouldering wood and rat droppings, the kitchens of spoiled cabbage and mutton fat," etc. So pretty grim, pretty gritty. If that appeals to you, go pick it up. So that's P. Then we have Q. So this is Queen Macbeth by Val McDermid, of the Darkland Tales series by Polygon Books. Now I know I said I wasn't going to pick books in a series. I think I can get away with this one and my next book. It will all become revealed. It will be revealed. Because although they're in the same publication series, they are not linked stories and they're written by different authors. So please forgive me. But anyway, Queen Macbeth is takes us back 1,000 years to Scotland, and we are all familiar with the name Macbeth, especially thanks to the Shakespeare play. But what a lot of people didn't realise is Macbeth was married to a woman called Gruach. And this really kind of puts us on the shoulders of Gruach and kind of through her eyes of how she fell in love with Macbeth, how she admired his sort of physicality, his power, how he kind of conducted himself, and just really how difficult and hard life was 1,000 years ago, kind of living off the land, trying to keep your territory, trying to kind of keep your boundaries, trying to keep the loyalty of your men. And Gruach kind of in amongst all of that, loving her husband, being loyal, all of those different things, and knowing that their life expectancy wasn't very long in the grand scheme of things compared to nowadays. So very short, very enjoyable. I would pick this one up. Next is Rizzio by Denise Miner. I love Denise's writing. I think she is probably my favourite Scottish writer. This transports us to 16th century Edinburgh. We are in the rooms and corridors and stairwells of Holyrood House, which was the kind of the official royal residence of Mary Queen of Scots, who's on the throne. She is married to Lord Darnley. Darnley is a really nasty piece of work, and he is intent on murdering Rizzio, who is close to the Queen. He's attractive, charismatic, all the things that Darnley isn't. Darnley is just toxic and nasty. It sets out a whole horrible sort of gauntlet of actions, and you can tell there's bloodshed, and all is not well. So absolutely love this. I've recommended it to lots of friends and family. Very short again, like Queen Macbeth, but yeah, we'll read this in years to come, probably time and time again. So that's Rizzio. S, completely different genre now. We're not talking historical fiction, we're talking kind of romance. And I've gone for Swift and Saddled because, again, a lot of my books, I struggled with the letter S. Let me know out there if you have any particular standout favourites beginning with the letter S for fiction, because I can't see any apart from this one jumping off my shelves. So Swift and Saddled is by Lila Sage. It is the second in the Rebel Blue Ranch, or Blue Rebel, I'm doubting myself now, Rebel Blue Ranch in Wyoming in America. We have a kind of a whole cast of characters, and there's been 3 or 4 books published so far, and they each feature or focus on a different kind of man and woman main character. So this one is number 2 in that series, and this one features Ada and, what was his name? Weston. So Ada is kind of a career woman. She's an interior designer. She moves to Meadowlark, and this is really a tale of kind of strangers to friends, friends to lovers, which I think is you're very hard pushed not to enjoy those dynamics as they happen, all in about 250 pages. Yep, 250 pages. Anyway, that is a completely different gear change to most of the books that I've been talking about so far. But if you are a fan of romance, yeah, go and pick this one up. Then for T, again, I wasn't going to let myself pick up any beginning with the word the, because I think that is a bit of a cop-out. So I have picked 3 Hours by Rosamund Lupton. I read this a few years ago now. I've seen Rosamund speak at Marlborough Literary Festival. The next one is coming up in September. Go and have a look at it online if you are interested. Rosamund isn't speaking there. I don't want to mislead you in that way. But 3 Hours, that is quite a sinister, spooky, unsettling cover to start with. But this is a real kind of unsettling look at the period of 3 Hours, and we are in winter, we're in England, and essentially there is a school under siege in the snow for 180 minutes, and it's distressing, it's shocking. I think we've all grown up with hearing and seeing on the news awful situations that have injured and cost the lives of young people and their teachers all around the world. So I'm in no way kind of distracting from that fact. But this was incredibly kind of made me think, what the hell would I do? You don't have phone signal, you are vulnerable with what you can barricade the door with. Do not put your head above sort of tables and in line of sight with glass windows, etc. What would you do? And I think it is a really important and significant look at that Rosamund has taken. This was published a few years ago now. It might be at the start of COVID. Yeah, 2020 it was first published. But there you go. That is T. we are on to our final bunch of books now, as you will know from how the alphabet works. So I think, if I'm correct, we're up to You, and I've picked Unsettled Ground by Claire Fuller. Claire Fuller is a Hampshire-born author. Actually, I don't know if she's born in Hampshire. She lives near Winchester. So I've seen Claire speak a few times, and Unsettled Ground is a look at rural poverty in England. Essentially, you have brother and a sister. They're extremely dependent, fully grown adults, I think in their 40s or 50s, and they're totally or unhealthily dependent on their elderly mother. And when she dies, the whole world turns inside out, and you really sort of see them struggle to function. And because they are kind of cut off in many ways from the outside world, it makes you kind of wonder how they will cope. So I think that's a really interesting take on grief and kind of visibility and people who aren't visible to society. So there's that one. V, I have picked Violetta by Isabel Allende. Absolutely adored this book when I read it. I feel like, when was it? Oh, I've got a nice card in there with it. I bought this in 2022. The years fly by, don't they? Anyway, Violetta is the tale of Violetta herself. She lived 100 years, and it spans right from, oh, let me see, when does it actually start? 1920. All the way through to very, very recent years. And it is kind of an epic, sweeping tale of that century of life. Violetta is, I guess, a woman. She's unique. She is herself, obviously. But this is just, she isn't remarkable in the reason why she's featured. It just sort of charts her life as a daughter, as a young woman, as a wife, as a sister, all the way through South America. I believe it's Argentina. You can tell my recall of this isn't the greatest. So it's, yeah, ripples through the Great War, Spanish flu, her South American homeland. Yeah. Devastating heartbreak and passionate affairs, times of both poverty and wealth, terrible loss and immense joy. I've got my signed copy, which I feel very happy to have. Isabel is a highly regarded and well-renowned author. So I have tried a couple of other of her stories, but I haven't gravitated and connected with them as I have with this one. So that's Violetta. So that's V. For W, I have Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. I've read this earlier this year, and I was lucky enough to see Grady speak at an event here in England in Bath in April. This is a look at, I think, let's say 1970s America. Yeah, 1970s. And history books tell us that young girls who got pregnant for kind of whatever reason were sent away, not to be seen, not to be heard until a baby was born. Baby was given to a new family, and the girl would return to her schooling or her family as if nothing had ever happened. And we find ourselves in a home for these girls, and we meet a whole variety of young girls who are there, backgrounds, looks wise, the reasons they have become pregnant become transparent. There are some kind of alarming, unsettling, uncomfortable topics dealt with in this novel. Just how the girls come to terms with their changing bodies. And then there is a woman that comes on a sort of a mobile book bus, and some of the girls kind of become involved with her, and yeah, witchcraft is at play, let's say. I'm not going to spoil it for everyone. But it's a strong testament. I know this is 1970s America, but this sort of behaviour and this kind of restriction on young mums and the taking away of their babies went on for many years and many decades, and it is important to shine a light on this, as Grady does. So that is W. And then I have I realise now UVWX. X I haven't got anything for. I found this quite hard. I wasn't going to, again, make up or fabricate a book that I've read. Are there any books out there beginning with the letter X? Let me know if there are, because I need to get hold of one to actually officially complete this challenge. But without further ado, I'm going to go on, and we are up to the letter Y now. I'm doubting myself with the alphabet. It's honestly, I have an English degree. You're in safe hands, but not often I am challenging myself to go through the whole alphabet in terms of book titles. So for Y, we have You by Caroline Kepnes. As you can tell, this is the Netflix cover for this series by Caroline. This is book one. We meet Joe Goldberg in New York City. He falls kind of head over heels in love with Guinevere Beck, also known as Beck, and that is very, very quickly evident that is a very, very wrong, toxic, deadly relationship, because Joe turns out to be a serial killer. I've got many of the other books in this series. I'm not sure I've got every single one just yet, but I will do. Is Beck going to be safe? Is she going to survive? Is she going to realise who Joe is and escape before he can cause absolute damage that cannot be unwound? I can't think of the words right now. I might need a coffee. Anyway, a lot of you out there might have read this one already. I really enjoyed the series, especially the Netflix adaptation. I will probably watch it again and again in years to come. I feel like it isn't like an autumn and winter watch, and I would like to kind of watch from the very start right the way through, all in kind of one go, so to speak. So I might do that this autumn and winter. If I do, I'll probably mention it on my social media channels, so stay tuned for that. But for Z, blank again. Let me know if there are any good books out there beginning with the letter Z. And sorry, I'm British, so it's Z, not Z. But any Z lovers out there, go ahead. Tomato, tomato. We all say things differently. That is the beauty and tapestry of the world out there, isn't it? But yeah, there you go. That is my A to Z of recommendations in fiction. I really hope you've enjoyed watching this week's video. I've had a lot of fun making it. It definitely got my little grey cells kind of whirring and making notes on my phone with the alphabet from A right the way through to Z. I feel like I've done my best. I had a few, 3 or 4, I feel like 4 missing letters. I had N missing, didn't I? I had a U missing. I had an X and a Z. I think that's 4, isn't it? My maths is not the greatest. So yeah, around those 4, just pop your recommendations in the chat. But yeah, I'm thinking I will do a non-fiction version of this challenge and stick to the same kind of rules that I've set myself this time around. Let me know if you would like to see that. If you've enjoyed this one right now, I would really appreciate you just taking a second to hit the like button. And if you are new to my channel and you fancy watching any future videos of mine, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any of my future kind of videos going up. You'll be the first to know when they do. It's usually Monday evenings here in the UK, a new video goes up. I do my absolute best to do that every week. And then I post some short clips through the week if time and life allow. But anyway, I shall wrap things up here. I think for those haven't watched my channel before, I ask everyone to leave me an emoji connected to the theme or the topic of the week's video, and it's going to be no different to this one. So I'm thinking, I never think of this ahead of time, as you might tell. I think, why don't you leave, because I've got these in front of me, a clock emoji for 3 hours, and just in honor of the time that we spend reading all these brilliant books. So it could be a clock face, it might be a watch, whatever it might be, but something related to time, even a sand timer, whatever it is, hourglass, is it? Whatever it is, I'm doing that, you know what I mean. Anyway, I shall sign off here. I hope you're all doing really well, and you have got some time set aside this week to enjoy whatever book you're reading, whether that's a hardback, paperback or audiobook. I'm hopefully going to finish my current read, which is The Long Drop by Denise Miner. As I said, really enjoying that one, set in 1950s Glasgow. Very brutal, very kind of violent, really interesting, and very sweary. So if that is your cup of tea, head to that one. But anyway, thank you once again for watching. Take care, and I shall see you in next week's video. Bye.